this year is not done yet, but it's going to close, well north of 1.5 mil.
This is Ben Perry. Ben is one of our Honest FBA community members and someone we had to bring on the channel. He's had a pretty crazy year. Was it like 24K on a single day, which is, it was incredible. In this interview, you're going to find out how he finds winning products, the biggest moves he's made to scale his brand, how he's found success on TikTok, the biggest mistake he made, trust me, you're going to want to avoid it, and why he thinks this.
If you're not doing Amazon FBA right now, you need to get in there and do it.
Grab a coffee, grab your notepad, settle in. This is a good one. Cool, Ben, welcome to the channel. This is one of our Honest FBA members, so thank you for jumping on.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, man. Yeah.
So we wanted to get Ben on today because you're for sure one of the star members of Honest FBA. You add a lot of value in the community, and you've been doing some, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, doing some pretty crazy numbers recently with your Amazon business. So I kind of wanted to jump into like the backstory of it, the growth that you've had, and kind of some secrets maybe you can spill for how you've had such good success recently. So
Sure.
I guess to start out, could you let us know, like, how did you find Amazon FBA initially?
So I had a friend from another from SEO basically. So there was a guy that I knew from doing stuff in the SEO realm, and this is like maybe 2017-ish, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And he was a seven-figure seller at the time, and had his own warehouse and everything in the U.S. and so he was just a guy that I trusted and respected, and he came to me at one point on a call and said, "Hey, if you're not doing Amazon FBA right now, you need to get in there and do it." He said, "You're crazy not to get in at this point because it's going to get harder and harder and harder," and that was, maybe, like I say, like 2018 or something.
Right, okay.
So it didn't really fit with what I was doing at the time. So I had an authority site at that time, and it was doing pretty well. It was getting, at its height, maybe like 250,000 visits a month, and
Wow.
doing pretty well. And I was monetizing that primarily with ads and affiliate stuff. And so I had all these affiliate articles that were on the site, and like best X for Y kind of articles. So I had some view into what people were interested in and what they were buying, and what types of products from the keyword research I was doing for the site anyway. So I had a bunch of those articles, and I could see which ones are doing well, and so that's how I chose the product. So what happened with that site later is it got hit by a Google algo update and absolutely decimated. It was like, within 6 months it was almost nothing.
From the 250,000 uniques?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. Yeah, it was probably went from 250,000 uniques to 10,000 in 6 months.
Wow.
And that was just due to an algorithm update, right? So, and it was it was the Medic update, which a lot of things never recovered from. So that was too big of a hill to climb. So I just said, what can I pick out of the wreckage here? So I actually took the content from that site and made several other sites and did some different things with it. But one of the things that I was doing while it was at the height, I was thinking about how can I monetize this better than ads and affiliate stuff. Like, how can I do some deeper monetization? And one of the things I came up with was, I could actually sell the products instead of being an affiliate for them. So that was my first foray into that. And so he made that comment, and I said, okay, well, that's my opportunity. I'll just jump on this bandwagon right here and start a product. And I started that product, and I immediately had a place to, for a little while anyway, immediately had a place to sell it and get external traffic because I just stuck it into the, existing site content.
And that was this was still side hustle for you because you had a full-time
for sure.
career, right?
Yeah, that site was not hard. Like, I had, outsourced writers on Upwork, like writing content, and I was running ads and doing affiliate stuff, but that was didn't take a lot of time. That was not super hard thing to do. It was just like a content production. Once I had the format down and had somebody to upload things into WordPress for me and everything, it was like, it didn't take too much time really.
So when you launched what was the actual date then that you launched your first FBA product? Like, what year are we in then?
That was, I believe I launched that in early 2019. Yeah.
Okay. And was it like immediate success? Did it kind of blow
No.
you away or underwhelming or?
No, it was a hustle of a side hustle, right? So it was something that was hanging on to this other thing that was much larger, and when it got destroyed, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is one of the pieces of the wreckage that's left. But I was severely under focused on that at the time, and that remained for years, really. So I just kind of like let it sit there and make a little bit of money every month. It was profitable almost from the jump. Like I didn't, you know, the I don't know if the strategies were different back then, or if I just got lucky or what. But the like I didn't go through this phase like I would now, where I'll run at break even or even negative to get rankings and then dial things back into profitability. That wasn't the idea at all. I was just like, here, I'm going to sell a thing, I'm going to make money, So that it was profitable probably from month one would be my guess. Although
Wow.
I didn't look back at that, and but low volume, right? Like I didn't know much about logistics or doing anything correctly. I did everything wrong. I mean, and until I got you guys' course, I didn't realize how deep that ran. But I basically did every single thing wrong.
I think
And
that's
still doing
the I think that's the first time when you joined Honest FBA. I think you booked a call maybe like a week later, 2 weeks later, and we were chatting about. And I think you mentioned something to do with your logistics, and I was like, Are you air shipping everything? And I think it was that, right? And it was there was
air
something to
shipping.
do with the shipping that
Yeah.
that you just hadn't even thought of changing.
It was worse than that. Right? I used to, I didn't know about like anything in the supply chain. So like I would airship stuff to my house and rebox it and then send it to Amazon.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
So I just like it was like total amateur hour. I just didn't, because it was something I didn't really care about too much. And then at some point I was like, well, two things. This is growing a lot, and this is way too many boxes for me to be dealing with. And so I started like poking around, and that's like sort of the same time frame. Yeah, like a little bit later that I found you guys. I just started asking my suppliers and stuff, and I was like, hey, instead of sending this to my house, could you send it somewhere else? And they're like, yeah, of course. Like, we can't believe you do that. I was like, well, that would have been nice if you've mentioned a year ago.
So to go back to the product selection then, Ben. So this was because you had content already in this niche on the authority site that you had. Is that first product then, just to clarify, is that still the product and the brand that you've got today?
Yes.
And so then have you done product research outside of kind of that technique of basically looking at the authority site that you had before? Like, was it purely just through that you found this product range then?
Yeah, so that piece, yes, I got lucky and found that. Well, I sort of got lucky. I mean, I was doing keyword research, which is how I got to that content in the first place. So, and I had the traffic data, and I was seeing how people responded to me. I could see the conversion rates. Like, I had a lot of data that I could use to make that decision in the first place. So I shouldn't say it was not random at all, but there was no product research like behind it in the way that you guys teach at all. So that didn't come around until much later, when I started expanding beyond my original product and having more of a product line. At that point, I started doing some of these techniques, but it's kind of very much on rails, because now I'm in a niche and I already, I have this product already and I'm building off of that. So that severely constrains the world of possibilities.
It makes it so much. I think once you get a bit of traction in a niche, like product research is just so much easier, though, so much faster, because anything then is a possibility, right? You just the niche, you know customers' behavior, and if you can launch product into that sub niche, there's a good chance you're gonna have success. I mean, how many SKUs are you up to now overall in the brand?
How many SKUs? I have about 25.
25 SKUs. Is that under like? I know you've got multiple.
Yeah, one is like
variations
there's like a large parent-child family, and then some other random stuff.
And do you think then? Go on, you have it.
Do you mind sort of talking about the numbers as well, Ben? Because I think it's interesting for people to like. Obviously, we're talking about this, but like, I think it's interesting for beginners to kind of hear how much I was doing when I started, and then how much I'm doing now. Like, are you cool with sort of like revealing the rough numbers?
Yeah, I dropped some of that in chat a little bit ago. So I looked back to see because I just wanted to for people to understand that it's not an overnight success kind of thing, or at least mine wasn't. You can have that, as Tom proves, but but the like the whole genesis of that took years, right? So it took it took years for me to get from like 4 figures a month to 5 figures a month. I was for a long time making like single digit thousands a month selling this thing that I would reload once a quarter and
in profit though. You mean with that, right?
No, I mean like revenue.
Revenue. Okay.
Yeah. So like it was basically nothing for like the first year or two, and then I put a little bit more focus on it and built out the product line a little bit more. That was and that leads to like one of the biggest mistakes in this was that I didn't do that sooner, right? So I started with just one what would ultimately end up being one of many child ASINs, and distinguished by a couple different factors, and that was it, right? I just had one thing, and now I sell many things of that type, and like that moving there should have been like the first thing I did right out of the gate. But the reason I didn't do that was because of the complexity. So each time you add a SKU, even if it's a child SKU, it's you're increasing your logistical complexity, and my garage wouldn't handle that, so I left it too small for too long, and I really should have stepped on the gas a lot sooner.
Do you know, Ben, roughly, let's say, just to make it easy and digestible, say like 21, 2022, and then this year, do you know like your annual kind of revenue numbers?
Like I tend to look at like this year going back because they were so small, right? So it didn't like until last year didn't really matter. So I don't have off the top of my head the ones that were before that. This year will be like several times the size of last year. So what happened was, I'll give this another piece of the story. I tried to sell this. So like back in probably late 21 or so, I tried to sell it, and it didn't sell basically. Like I left it on the it was on the market for a while and had a little bit of interest, but got one offer that was way too low, and so I just pulled it and I said, well, if I'm going to do that, I could just run it for the next year and collect the money, and it would be better than what's going on here. So I said, well, I'll do it myself, and over that year, like 4x'd it, and then this year has been like much wilder still. So that probably, I think it's 4xing it probably meant taking it from like 100 top line to 400 top line, and then this year is not done yet, but it's going to close well north of 1.5 mil.
Yeah, I mean that's huge. That's I was waiting for the golden number to come in. Maybe we'll pop up a screenshot that you put in our Discord channel, in our results channel, because you blew everyone away on the most recent Black Friday. I know you was it like 24K on a single day, which is it was incredible. You took the win in the group, and massive. I mean, look, going from 400 to 1.5 is outrageous growth for 1 year, to be honest. Yeah. Has that come with any challenges you found, like in terms of what is it going to be, cash flow or inventory management? What's been the biggest challenge in scaling up? What's that, 300% growth?
Yeah, so I mean all the above. The logistics was my first one. That was something I had to solve right off the bat. So and get that off my plate, because I'm not good at that. That's not one of the pieces that I'm good at. So things were starting to fall through the cracks quite a lot. So I said I got to get somebody on board and do this. So I went and hired a staffing agency to get a logistics person. That's been fantastic. She's done a great job, and brought a lot of like professionalism and a lot of like detail oriented tracking to the whole thing. So that's probably the most like the biggest piece, where there's the most work, and so that's the piece I had to offload. And I have a person that does support. Support is support's not too bad, and I should probably be doing most of that myself still, but I don't love it, so I have a person that does that. And then getting the capital is another one, right? So there's a whole podcast in itself, is like how you fund all this, because of the turnover cycle, and that's a bunch of stuff that I never really thought about either, until things got bigger.
Is that because because you were profitable from day one? That's awesome, right? So it makes things a bit easier with expansion. But obviously, then if you there's this tipping point when it starts working, where like I think I read it somewhere. It's like you're pushing a rock up a hill, and then you hit this tipping point, and then you're chasing the rock down the hill, basically trying to keep enough stock in to keep up with demand, and not it's that problem of it's like people say it's a good problem to have, but it still sucks when you could be making a bunch of money and you're sat out of stock. So financing that obviously is an issue. I mean, have you just self-financed it? Have you looked around these like specialist e-com lenders or private loans?
Yeah. I mean, again, all of the above. I'm like looking at everything right now and trying to see what the best thing is. So and right now I kind of have a mix of different things. One of the ones that Amazon offered, I have a line of credit there, and I have some like credit cards and like the Amex Gold thing, and there's it's a patchwork quilt of financing options right now. But as you get that's probably the biggest challenge, right? Like it's not the biggest thing, not the biggest time suck, but it's like the thing that requires a lot of mental space, is how you're going to fund all this stuff. Because that was my whole thing early on too. I was like, well, if I grow it slowly, then I don't have to worry about that, right? Like, so I wouldn't have to. I knew that e-com was a much more cash hungry business than anything that I had done previously, and so like growing slowly allowed me not to have to think about that, basically, because it would just fund itself. And if you're air shipping, your whole cycle time's a lot faster. So, so that helps too.
I feel like you got a bit full circle with that, because I know we were chatting recently about you had such a big November and then into this month, and you gonna have to start air shipping some stuff in, aren't you, to keep up with demand?
Yeah, it's still more like, like I was trying to solve all those problems. As I'm like talking to more people and reading more things, seeing more podcasts about this, I realize there aren't a lot of people who've solved this problem. It's not really that solvable. So because like demand is really, really hard to forecast. So some people are a lot better at it than others. That's for sure. They're my logistics person a lot better at it than I am. But it's just a hard thing to do, especially when you're growing at a rapid clip, right? Because, I wouldn't have predicted that this month would be as big as it is, like in October. So I didn't predict that. So luckily, we did do a lot of Q4 ordering, and I'm not out of stock on hardly anything right now. We're still like just barely making it, but with air shipping involved. I didn't get it all over here by sea. That has been a huge transition, like moving from air shipping everything to sea shipping everything. And you save a lot of money, but you have to think way farther in advance.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I mean, also you've come over to sea shipping this year, whilst the prices were a lot higher when you were doing your air shipping. Not that they were as high as shipping by plane, but they were a lot higher. So it's you kind of got the cost saving there, but like you said, there's a lot more planning to it. I don't think the thing with Amazon, when you grow so fast as you can on Amazon, like a business growing 300%, I think most advice would be don't grow that fast as a business if you can help it. with your own D2C site because of cash flow, because of supply chain issues, and with Amazon sometimes you can't help that demand for your niche. There could be an external factor, it just goes crazy, and you've got to ride that wave. But you're placing a big bet, aren't you, making that order in July for Q4? I think you're interestingly with your niche, which we're not going to dive into exactly what it is, but it's good in Q4, and then it's still good in Q1, isn't it? Like you've landed on quite a nice one. Could you kind of go into that in a bit more detail?
Yeah, that was totally lucky, right? It's because it has some evergreen aspects to it, stuff that people need all year round, but it also has like a new year, new you kind of angle to it, right? So it could be seen as like something to pamper yourself, or could be seen as like something for health, to help yourself get healthier, kind of thing. So there's there are both aspects to it. I'm not sure if that'll hold this year. That'll be interesting to see, right? So last year, the December was my biggest month ever, and we rolled into January. January is only slightly smaller than December. If that happened again this year, I'd be shocked, but I would also that would cause a lot of problems because we're already. It would be nice to have a breath after December to get. Are we talking
the December? I'm guessing you're up over 200 for the month. Is that about right?
This December?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This month I'm over 300. Yeah.
300 over 300k. Wow, that is huge.
Crazy. Yeah.
Very nice.
I mean, but so I think one thing that I'm always interested to hear from people that have grown to like this level is like, and I think other people that are like perhaps beginners are interested to hear is like, if you had to go back now, like if this brand just disappeared and you had maybe just a beginner's type of budget type of thing, like knowing what you know now, how would you start Amazon FBA again? Do you think, knowing what you know now?
I guess it depends on how much money there is to put into it. I was talking about this with somebody the other day. I think it's nice to there's something to be said, if you can do it, for having capital at the outset. So I mean, something huge to be said to that, right? It's obviously an enormous advantage, but it changes what niches you can pick and what you can go into, and the ones that you go into that require more money are going to have fewer competitors. So that's a huge advantage. So for the problem with that is, of course, it takes operational knowledge. You have to know kind of what you're doing before you do that. But if I were starting fresh and had a small budget, I think I would still focus on getting something out the door really, really fast and just doing it, right? So I see a lot of the chatter on product research, and I can only say so much about that because I didn't do that much of it. But I will say that there's a huge advantage to getting the experience, right? There's a few things you got to look out for. There are some things that can you're messing up your, and I've made all these mistakes, messing up your GTIN numbers at the start, something like that. Something like that goes wrong, that can sit with you for a long time, right? There are some mistakes that you want to definitely avoid, but having a course in a community like that, certainly helps you avoid those. But I think there's also a lot of analysis paralysis that goes on, where people start looking across things and they're trying to find something just right. I think that there's a lot more value in finding something that might be right and then go do it and then see what happens after that, right? Because once you start working on something, that's when all the ideas kick in, right? It's the action that creates the opportunities.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we had this conversation in one of the live calls, literally that we did last night, is somebody said they felt like, there was a little bit of analysis paralysis. And I think it's because the beginner mindset is kind of, I've got to find this perfect product because I don't want to waste my money. I don't want to lose anything. But my first product, I mean, one of them was one of these wallets that I've got on my desk. Not this exact one, but it was the first one that I ever launched. This was 4 years ago. and it was crap. Like, it wasn't very good. I didn't really do, I didn't really do the fundamentals very well, but I got it to market and it sold. And I remember doing 12 sales in a day for Valentine's Day, and it blew my mind. But that was like the proof of concept then, and that was the confidence that I needed, and that I was hooked from that point. I was like, well, if I can do 12 sales, why can't I do 50 sales and then 100 sales? Like, it's just the same thing, but just bigger. So I think that's one thing that we're really trying to encourage people to do now, is obviously you want to maximize the chance that that first product is a success, but you don't want to, you don't want to be still sat there 6 months later not launching anything because you're so like frozen with fear that you're gonna lose out. Because really the worst case scenario is maybe you lose 20-30% of your investment, I think. And if you're not 100% sure, you can always go for a little bit of a smaller opportunity and just get that rep in of launching something.
Right.
Do you think, Ben, with knowing what you know now, so when you joined Honest FBA, you then look at how to, because there's still product research to be done within your niche. So once you learned what a good product looked like, did you then realize, oh yeah, this niche I'm in is sweet because it's like evergreen, it's not too seasonal, increase in trends, like you kind of like ticked all the boxes that like you'd want to hit. Did you kind of realize that, and did that give you more confidence to go a bit bigger
as well? No.
Yeah, that too. Like a lot of that stuff I did look into, but then I recognized it later. And what I did see also was weaknesses in the competitive set. So I mean, you guys spent a lot of time talking about that, but that was something that I came to on my own pretty quickly. It was just like there were a lot of holes in the niche, and like things that I could do a lot better than other people were doing them, and some of them that weren't that hard, right? Like, I'm from a marketing background, and like a lot of the marketing was fairly horrible. So there were a lot of places, and there's still a lot of things that I'm not doing well, and have like gotten put on the back burner because of the other growth issues. But I think that it was some combination of me getting lucky and then realizing where I was and just like stepping on the gas when I later realized what I had.
Yeah, I mean that goes to your point about just starting sometimes is the best thing to do, because an opportunity isn't always going to stare you in the face, and then you can make a kind of 7 out of 10 opportunity potentially become a bit of a 10 out of 10 once you've got going, and it makes you look at the niche properly. And I mean, to relate it to Alex and I, like when we started out and when we wanted to raise, we needed some capital in our business, so we created a deck for the brand that we were growing, and it made us take a proper look at the whole niche and the whole opportunity, and it like really reinforced, okay, this is a good idea, let's go all in on this. And yeah, it sounds like kind of similar to yourself.
Right.
With your growth then, Ben, so this year's obviously been massive. I mean, to reiterate that point, if you say you did 400k last year and you've done 300k in December this year, which is like that's crazy to think about. Okay. What were the biggest levers that you pulled this year, you think? I not just like staying in stock, and I know you rode a bit of a wave perhaps of it getting more popular, but what do you think were the biggest moves that you made?
I mean, like, well, staying in stock is a huge one, right? Like that, I had a lot of problems with that, and staying in stock has its own momentum, right? So that may be underappreciated, but staying in stock isn't just having you have something to sell, and as opposed to not. It's also Amazon trusting you that you're going to stay in stock, and then treating you a little nicer in the algorithm, I think. So that has its own momentum. I had a bunch of I came at this from a very different perspective initially. Like I was saying, I came from like an SEO paid search background, so I did a lot of stuff that was what you call external traffic, right? So there's a lot said about that now, but I was doing that years ago because that was the only thing I knew how to do. I didn't know how to manipulate Amazon's algorithm, and I wasn't really trying, but I knew Google, and I knew how to use like content and sites to drive traffic. So that was a big factor, continues to be a factor. Another big one is in the ads. So I got somebody managing my ads. I started using Scale Insights. Started just doing a lot more on the Amazon ads front, and that went crazy, right? That was a big unlock basically, and the unlock wasn't anything crazy. It was really just like, I'm spending 100 a day. Well, what if I spent 500 a day? And what if I spent 1,000 a day? So, and it worked, right? So I would have thought that the ceiling on that would have been much lower. I thought I was closer to maxing that out than I was by a long shot. So that was a big unlock. It was just doing a lot more on the ad front and bringing a lot more professionalism to how I was running my ads. I think those are probably the big ones.
Because you've had you've put up some great sort of like numbers as well on the Shopify side, right? So like your D2C side. So like, can you tell us just a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, that's still small-ish. So the D2C site is not as old as all the rest of it, and I didn't really have much of a focus on that until this year, and I just started wanting to diversify the channels a little bit. It's still not really diversified. It's still probably like 85% Amazon, but it's been growing a lot. It's been making big strides, and the one that is even more recent than that is the TikTok. So I'm using Shopify. I still use, MCF backends everything, right? So no matter what I'm using, it's Amazon's backend. But
what he means by that for people that are new to it is that we're using Ben's using Amazon's FBA system, so like it's fulfilled by Amazon still, like their warehousing, but not sold on the platform.
Right. So I have an integration in the Shopify that does that and allows that to talk to Amazon and fulfill. And then there's a separate integration for TikTok that does the same thing. And so that came up. I was hearing a lot about it, and I said, "Oh, I'll give it a try." And they were giving some ad credits out, and so I tried that. I never did get the ads working as well as I'd like. They were, like kind of okay, but not profitable. And then but what they do have is a very slick influencer platform. So they make it easy for you to have an affiliate program. They make it easy for you to reach out to influencers and for them to reach out to you, which was the piece I didn't really expect, is that I've gotten a lot of inbound interest just from doing that initial ad run. So I spent a couple grand on ads initially just to kind of get the ad credit, and that got the exposure so that the other influencers were seeing it and saying, "Hey, that's a product I'd like to show people." So gotten a lot of inbound on that, and that is where that thing sits right now. I currently don't have any ads on that, but it's half the size of my DTC site so far this month.
Wow.
So that's just in the past month or so, right? So
but just with that influencer program, Ben, they're reaching out to you. Are you then? How does it work? You're sending them a free, like, obviously we do it with our business for on Amazon. We reach out to people on Instagram or TikTok and send them a free product. Are you just shipping them a free product and then they're making content and being an affiliate, or are they actually just buying your product and then wanting to be an affiliate?
No, I usually ship it to them. They'll reach out and say, I did a little of initial outreach as well, but like maybe half a dozen people or something that I reached out to, and then all the rest has been inbound, and that has, like I say, has driven all of it now. And that is mostly just people who reach out and say, can you send me this product or that product? And I'll say, yeah, sure. And then if they want to opt in, I assume all of them do, like opt into the affiliate program, then they can do that. But that's really, the whole of it. It's not a hard thing to manage.
It is a bit of a, does seem like a bit of a gold rush there at the moment. I mean, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and the way the guy explained it was TikTok at the moment, TikTok Shop is a bit like buying Bitcoin in 2011. It was like, this is the time to get in and stack up, and it's like the ease of access to affiliates is incredible compared to any other platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's one kind of tip of the hat to you. You're within our community. I think you're very good at just like going out and just like testing new things, and then bringing you kind of work in silence, and then you bring the results into the chat and say you kind of explain what you did, and then everyone wins off it. So no, it's great to see. I think do you see longer term then? Do you want to spend where are you looking to split your focus? Are you looking to build up a real big D2C presence, or do you still want to kind of squeeze as much out of Amazon as you can?
I think it's likely that Amazon will always be a huge part of this business. I seem to be, and listening to you guys and other folks, I seem to be having a lot of the same sort of thoughts in terms of expansion. So like more products, trying to get one that is patent protected so that there's a little more of a moat, a little tiny bit of a moat, and looking into a consumable. So that's the broad outlines of the plan for next year is just to bring all those that are related to the core product and just expanding that way.
Awesome. Have you got a financial goal for this year? Because I mean, you're going to be 300% again. You're going to get pretty big.
Yeah. What's the revenue number? What are you, 10 mil?
I mean, yeah, that's a tough one actually. I came into this year, not came into this year. I was sitting in maybe August ordering for Q4, thinking, I think I'll I think I'll try to get to like a 5 mil run rate next year, and I think that's looking like a real low bar. So I think that I can do probably a lot better than that. I think because it's funny you were mentioning earlier about how you hit the different goals along the way, and I think that there's a real psychological benefit as you go to hitting those, right? Like when I started out, and I usually do it based on like what's going to disappoint me, right? Like what kind of sales today are going to disappoint me. And that's how I know I'm getting better, right? So initially it was like, I just want to make sure that this week I don't have any days where I get 0, right? And then, it becomes 100, 1,000, 5,000, whatever. And that keeps going up. And then at the top end, you're also like normalizing for yourself what's possible. So it's pretty clear that there's some big growth here, but I think still like there's some trigger in your brain that says, okay, well, since I hit that today, like you were saying, then I could hit that again. Like seasonality is obviously a factor here, but if I can get to like a certain level in a day, then it's possible to get there every day, probably, right? If I just make the business bigger. And so, I got, there was a couple days that have been bigger than that one, this December, and I got like perilously close to a 10-figure or like an 8-figure run rate.
Wow.
Like a $10 million run rate. So I was thinking, if I could do that in a day, maybe by the end of
it's
next
like
year.
a napkin math, isn't it? You're like, if I just double this number, then I get to 10.
Yeah. But you do really see how scalable it is, and how it's really just like, it's exactly like you say. I still remember hitting $100 in a day, and that blew my mind. And then I remember hitting $1,000 in a day, and that blew my mind. And then hitting $10,000 in a day. And it's like each time you hit that $10,000 just eventually ends up feeling like the $1,000 a day did, and you because it's just so scalable. It's just more products with bigger demand, and then the numbers just kind of go up. And obviously, as long as you've got the cash flow to keep up with it, and that's because I was going to say to you, like, did you, I guess, when you first launched that product, you don't sit there and imagine yourself thinking, I'm going to do it. $300,000 a month with this business, do you? It's not really what you think. Actually, at the beginning.
If you'd asked me how big I thought this could possibly get, it would have been lower than I am right now. I just didn't think that, I didn't think the niche was that large, so I didn't think it could support it, and I was just wrong about that. So yeah, it's incredible. It's also, like you say, it's like much more scalable than you would think. Right, like e-com is probably in terms of number of moving parts, the hardest business that I've ever been involved with. But it is also it is massively scalable, in a way that a lot of other businesses aren't, right? Like I originally came from like the agency world, that was almost linear, right? And then been also like in software and gaming, and that's very very scalable as well. But for physical products, you think that there's going to be like it's going to require a lot of people to have a physical products business and move things around and do things in the physical world, but not really. I mean, like I've been surprised that I got this far with so few people and so little staff, and I think that I could get a lot farther and still have very minimal staff. So it is much more scalable than you think.
You don't even need a garage. Like you did utilize yours, but you don't even need that. I mean, how many models? Yeah, how many models can you get to 1.5 million with a part-time customer service rep and a supply chain person yourself?
Yeah.
It's incredible. You're leveraging the biggest, most well-oiled machine that's ever been built. And it's a huge way to
get
go
all
with
that
it.
work so that we don't have to.
Exactly. Well, look, Ben, mate, that was thank you so much for sharing. People like yourself are such a massive value add to Honest FBA to blow smoke up your ass for a British phase, if you know what I mean. There, we did meet Ben in New York recently. I'll pop up a picture. So it was cool to meet. You came down from Boston, right? He met you in person with Evan, which is great. So yeah, it's really cool to do this. Anyone else who's interested in kind of Ben's story. I mean, you're not really. Are you on social media? I know you're a Twitter guy, aren't you? Do you want anywhere to send people to find you, or do you want to stay hidden?
I'm on Twitter at Perry227, my last name, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I have like little small presences on all the like majors, but I don't. I'm not a very public guy, so that's probably the best way to reach me.
Well, maybe it'll change this year when you hit these. Get a $10 million business. People are going to start coming knocking.
Yeah, probably. So I'm trying to do more outbound stuff like that. That's why I suggested this. I'm like, so I'm hoping to do more on that front in this coming year as well.
Awesome. Well, nice one, Ben. Cheers for coming on, mate, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Ben.
Cheers.